DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook live show. We got a 6-game Friday slate we're looking at here today. Your guy Grande was on the Playbook. He's got that live over on Fantasy Alarm for you guys to go check out. But it should be a pretty interesting slate, given the injury news that we're waiting on, the fact that teams and trades, those players are not debuting for them, so the roster.
Well,
we assume we got.
I mean, yeah, but then you go to look at the injury report, and half the players have already been announced, and then teams like the Bucks are like, actually, Kyle Kuzma's questionable, and hey,
Right.
actually, Georges Niang and Karis LeVert were at shoot around this morning.
Sure.
You know, they're listed questionable on the injury report too. So like, you'd assume these things are.
Well, we got a lot of news from teams who already ruled out players.
Yes.
So there is clarity there.
Some, yes, not enough. I need all of the clarity because, like, hello, teams. There's a lot of like moving parts. People would like to know if we're playing or not.
Well, we got the 7 o'clock roster lock here today. So hopefully by 6:30, we'll have some news here. But Atlanta's a 7:30 start. So Atlanta, Milwaukee, 7:01. We'll get the news on them most likely like we have been. Cakes in the chat says, let's make some money tonight. David in there saying, what's up, guys? There's another good day over at Fantasy Alarm. If you were in the Discord, you saw longtime Fantasy Alarm member, S. Penny, in there, took down his tournament first place. We had some nice lines. You were calling out the right plays yesterday. You liked Portland. Anthony Simons popped out huge. Big game for Simons there. Nikola Jokic and Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown all had huge games in like
they would have
2.5 quarters. Like
Jokic goes for 80 and those guys go for 50 if that game's close.
Yep. So we were on it. It's just that the teams that we needed to stay in those games did not stay in those games. LeBron was feeling himself last night, taking logo pull-up threes.
Dude, 3 possessions in a row after 2 blown layups by the Warriors. Like, just silly stuff happening.
Yeah. So we turn the page, and now we look to a slate that we talked about this morning. Small slate, 6 games, a lot of high-end talent on this slate. So where we go with our lineup builds, I think will be super interesting. Again, obviously, hopefully we get some roster information here before roster lock to give us maybe a bit of a better picture for today's slate. The preview show, I threw out Joel Embiid on the cover there. It could be a Joel Embiid day. Ownership is spending up for one particular player today. So we'll get into all of that. We'll break it all down for all of you.
We just got cold in here, John. It's got a little cold in here.
And we'll talk about that point guard in a moment here. Albert saying what's up? What's up, Albert? Hope you're having a good Friday. Giannis, Wemby, SGA, Cade, Ball, Embiid are your 10K and above plays today. We'll see where we're going when it comes to spending up. James, I replied to your support email. Then, man, go check out your email. I sent you a message. He's back, Mr. Donnie Easy. So
from yesterday, but might possibly want to change the Yeezy part of his name after the after the latest Kanye Twitter rant.
Yeah, maybe, probably,
maybe.
We'll see.
The cycle does always repeat itself. We get the Kanye rant, and then usually following there's music.
Yeah.
So that's usually the cycle of the life cycle of Kanye West.
It's true. SGA is $10,700. Cade is $10,500. We got LaMelo at $10,100. Maxey $99,000. Trey $96,000 and Barnes $9,100. The highest rostered player on today's slate as of now is Ice Trae Young. Are you a buyer into Trae Young here tonight? Is the highest rostered player on the slate.
So, like, I think there's obviously multiple ways you can look at this, right? Like any situation where you have chalk. One, you look at Atlanta, no idea who's active, who's not. But if the guys that they traded play, then obviously they're not as shorthanded. But if they don't, they are very shorthanded. And then you're looking at a scenario where Trae Young has, he hasn't anyway. He played 43 regulation minutes last game.
Yeah.
He has that type of upside again, and you're getting a Trae since the All-Star snub, since the Jalen Johnson down for the count, who's gone for 32 plus actual points in 3 straight games. He has had obviously monster assist outings in those games and just simply has a massive ceiling. And I've said this all year, when the league leader in assists can also score 30 on a given night, your ceiling is just elevated. It's like why I always suggest playing Jokic, right, at the price he's at, because he is always live for a triple-double with 30 points, right? It's just, you don't get – there's not a lot of guys with Trae Young's ability to pass and score.
35 and 17, 35
yeah, I mean, dude, there's not many players on this slate that can go out and get 35 and 17. So I get it. Now, there's also a lot of factors into that, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is in a 19.5 point spread tonight. That game has 19.5 implied points separating the two teams.
Yeah.
I'm not a blowout guy. That number is staggering. It is a lot of points. So no one's playing him because it's just hard to envision a scenario where that game stays close, right? And not to say, I mean, we've seen Shai literally, he barely played into the fourth quarter the other day in that Phoenix blowout.
Yeah.
And he only did just to get 50. He got 50 and they checked him out, right? So
50 now in 2 of the last 4.
Yeah, and 3 of the last 7 overall. So or 8. He is just absolutely just destroying. Hard to get there. You can play him in large field stuff. Cade coming off the ankle, was seen at shoot around, looks like he's trending in the right direction. I think that's a great pivot. Obviously, worst game environment, but Philly is a bottom 10 defense. And although Joel Embiid looked good and the numbers looked good, he is just not as mobile as he was pre-knee injury. He's just not. And he doesn't look like that same defensive anchor as he's been. So I'm good with Cade in the spot against a bottom 10 defense. I'm not playing LaMelo Ball unless we hear that there's no limitations. Then I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think? 28% right now for LaMelo Ball in ownership here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also healthy because the minutes projection is so healthy. I'm not saying he's going to necessarily be limited. I just want to know what the number is, because if he's going to play 35 minutes, I have absolutely no issues getting to LaMelo Ball.
Yeah. It's just we've seen now twice where he's come back and played 26 minutes basically in that first game.
Well, He did. So the last time he actually played 33.
Okay.
There was a 9-day gap and he played 33.
Okay.
This is obviously a different injury because the ankle is what's bothered him repeatedly, over and over and over and over and over again throughout his young career. Last time it was the wrist and then the time before, I forget what it was, but I just like to see before I fully commit to LaMelo Ball if there's going to be some type of restriction.
Yeah.
Charlotte has handled their team's minutes in general weird this year. We've seen in competitive games where Miles Bridges to himself plays 31 minutes, and you're like, why did he only play 31 minutes? I don't understand. Or 12 first half minutes. You're like, why? So interested, but Maxey. The usage in the with Paul George and Joel Embiid on the floor is 25%. It's definitely lower than what it's been. Still well over a fantasy point per minute. Still has a ceiling. It's just, 2 games ago when Embiid came back, there was no Paul George.
Yeah.
So we got 33-13 in a 2-man action. Well, I still think he's clearly ahead of Paul George in terms of priority within Philly's construct, but just adding another high usage guy, it's a GPP only play for me again. He obviously has a massive ceiling, so I get why Trae is the go-to. Plus, there's a there's no shortage of value again to get to.
Yeah.
That game, Milwaukee Atlanta, is the best on the board by like a wide margin, 243 implied points in it, like pretty close spread overall. So I love Trey. I would say Cade is my top pivot of this top tier. I damn sure, seeing Cade at shoot around is definitely a good thing.
You're getting 10% Cade as of now. So.
Dude, he is a way better GPP play than LaMelo Ball. I'll say it like that. He is a way better play than LaMelo in tournaments.
Yeah, look, just the consistency out of him, and how many times do you and I talk about it where Detroit, you look up and all of a sudden Cade's on like his own like 14-0 run with a couple of rebounds and like a steal or something like that. He's just very capable of just taking over games. And you talked about Philadelphia, not really that great defensively. So your only other like spend up guard that is getting some ownership is Damian Lillard, $8,700. I imagine this has to do with Giannis here. Giannis questionable for today. If Giannis was to not play, everybody would just go to Dame. If Giannis gets ruled in, do you think 20% is still on Lillard, or is this just a straight up like game stack day where you're playing Milwaukee, Atlanta?
I think it doesn't have a lot to do with Giannis because usually, ownership is reflective of people being in, unless it's like a doubtful status. So I think it's more so your ladder theory, where it's just a game stack, because it is, regardless, it's a good matchup. He is obviously the Dyson Daniels matchup, and that's not fun. I'm good with it. You end up on Damian Lillard. It's a
242.5 game total, highest on the slate, 5.5 spread there, right? So Lillard 8,700. Where else are we looking to go in the mid range? You mentioned Daniels 72, Garland's 8K, Hero 84, Fox 8,500.
Yeah, I like De'Aaron Fox there. I liked what we saw out of De'Aaron Fox. Nearly 60 fantasy points. He had a 24% usage rate in that game. I think that's probably a safe number. A lot of times it's going to be a little higher. Wemby was in foul trouble that game. So, maybe we don't get the type of performance we did, but obviously great returns in the opener. And Charlotte's a bottom half of the league defense. So I like Fox of that tier. I like Daniels. I like Jordan Poole in tournaments, but another game with like 18 point spread. So
yeah, that's kind of the interesting one too, right? Like Bub Carrington is your actual highest roster guard slightly. Trae Young is like a point below him. Carrington's all the way down to $3,300. This is a 17.5 point spread right now. Just a guy that gets minutes, you think? Just like rain or shine, Carrington's on the floor?
I'd assume. We got random Washington stuff again today where Malcolm Brogdon's out and then he's upgraded to questionable. Yeah. And I just please, can we not do that again? But they did rule out all their new guys. So they ruled out Middleton. They ruled out Marcus Smart. All those players are out. They traded Jared Butler. They traded Johnny Davis. They traded Marvin Bagley. They traded Valanciunas, Kuzma. I'd assume we're just rolling Bub Carrington no matter what, because he is the one of their future. They had 3 first-round picks this year, right?
Yep.
2 of them are going to start tonight and play no matter what. So I am definitely interested in Bub. The one I just say please save him for shooting guard, because shooting guard stinks, because there's no shooting guards that I want to play.
Okay.
Bub, I hate the Brogdon upgrade. I have to say, I hate it. It just is such a terrible feeling.
Sure.
That once again, he was out. Why is he getting upgraded? Why are we doing this again if you're Washington? With the SAR stuff, right? It's holy cow, we can't play Rashawn Holmes anymore. Now all that leverage we had the other day was gone. And obviously SAR was ruled out and Holmes was fine. But how many people pivoted off of Rashawn Holmes because of that, right? So
Washington 7 o'clock, so we'll know Brogdon, right?
No, we won't.
You don't think so?
Did we know Sar?
Well, I mean, we got the starting lineup before roster lock with Sar out of the lineup.
Yeah, I know, but Brogdon doesn't start.
I'm just saying we knew that Holmes was starting still, So, all right, I'll keep Keon for shooting guard. How about Ty Jerome tonight? Blowout run, get down wings with Levert and Niang traded.
Yeah, I think that's more the former, or more the latter than it is the former. Okay. Like, I definitely think he's live for blowout run, but they do have Craig Porter that we've seen. I think he's just gonna play your backup guards. Like, he's always playing with Garland. He's always playing with Mitchell, and no Sam Merrill. They traded a bunch of pieces. They were already ruled out.
High fantasy point
Hunter,
per minute guy, obviously. So.
Really good fantasy point per minute. Officially, with the guys out, 1.1, and he has a 25.5% usage rate. I mean, that's a really big usage rate for a guy who, is getting ownership because I think people are smart. I do think a lot of the people that are playing him are probably like, oh, Ty Jerome's gonna play in blowout, and I'm not totally sure about that. Definitely a chance he plays in blowout, right? But I do think he is playing regardless. This is a spot we've seen Cleveland, right? They've done time and time again this year where they just limit the starters. Regardless of score. Garland's playing 30 and Mitchell's playing 29 and Jerome's just playing longer shifts. Yes, I think all of those things are in play. I think Ty Jerome could play in blowout. I'm not totally sold on it because they have enough players without him to do so. But I think he's just going to play enough minutes to be relevant regardless.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. All right, shooting guard. Donovan Mitchell's $8,600. A lot of these guys have dual positional eligibility. Mitchell and Koulibaly are two guys getting ownership love here tonight. We correctly called the Koulibaly play the other day.
I'm never.
That's true.
Right.
You're so lukewarm Koulibaly, and I'm all in on Koulibaly. So the man grew 6 inches in the offseason, James, and they don't have anybody else to play.
So did Jonathan Isaac. Look how that's worked out for him.
Isaac has been a great player. He's been hurt. It's not ability. It's not an ability problem.
What do you classify Joel Embiid as?
Injuries. Joel Embiid?
Yeah. What is Joel Embiid? Is he a great player?
Of course.
Okay. I'm just checking.
Is he not a great player?
No, I agree. No, I think he is a great player. Jonathan Isaac, not a great player, but Bilal Koulibaly is probably the first guy I want to get to here. I don't like a lot. I like Dyson Daniels. Mitchell ownership is definitely worrisome. I mean, he could just give you 40 actual in 3/4 and call it, but
22% ownership on Donovan Mitchell in the game with 17.5.
Yeah, I mean,
you get this game, you're dead at that price, right?
What game is more competitive to you? Cleveland, Washington, or OKC, Toronto? Or you could or see neither? Neither?
I don't know.
I'd almost say this one with Chet being back for OKC, but also maybe OKC is trying some things out, right? And that leads to.
If Toronto was healthy, I'd give them an edge.
Well, they're not healthy and they traded everyone. So
I know.
They don't have anyone available.
They were throwing out a Barrett, Quickly, Barnes lineup. All right, I can see those guys.
Yeah.
They don't even have Barrett.
No, they
Quickly's
don't have Barrett.
Still limited. So they don't have Pirtle.
I know, but Washington's historically bad, and they traded everyone. So
I don't think either of these games are going to stay within
C. So C.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying we just seen blowouts lately.
Yes.
37 and 28 fantasy points in games that they won handily. If you get this kind of production at $8,600 and 22% of the field is there, those guys aren't cashing today. Right?
Yeah.
So
I would rather play Trae Young chalk than Donovan Mitchell chalk tonight.
Yeah.
For sure. Koulibaly is the first guy that I really strongly get to here. Probably should have also saved him for small forward because it's such a bad position.
It is. I think we plugged him at small forward.
I think we did. Without Sar, Valanciunas, Kuzma, I cannot deny the numbers. 1.15 fantasy points per minute, team leading 5% usage bump, 23% usage. Cannot dispute the numbers. So, and
he's a good passer. Like he was filling
great
out the
passer.
stat sheet.
Yep.
Like,
and like they have been more competitive lately. I guess the one concern with Koulibaly is the blowouts. He has not, like he was earlier in the year, playing in the blowouts.
Does he have to play in them now if they're so short-handed?
They are pretty short-handed. I think they would be forced to probably play him. They're probably forced to play him. So, because they might not even have like Champagny tonight.
Yeah.
They might not even have Rashawn Holmes tonight. Both those guys on the injury report. Yeah, we might just see like 45 minutes out of Bilal.
Like Beantown saying, like, what if they just have Brogdon active to be an active body?
Just because they need an active body.
Need 8,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, Poole, Koulibaly, Kispert, George, Carrington, Holmes, Champagny, Gill, Vukcevic. That's 9. And I didn't say Brogdon, right? Brogdon would be 10 if he played.
Yeah.
And then if Champagny and Holmes get ruled out, Brogdon has to be active because
just for the 8. Yeah. And then we all just
8.
play Vukcevic anyways because he's going to play like all the center minutes.
Yeah.
So I think Koulibaly may just play. Now, again, it is not an easy matchup, but
no.
It gets easier if Cleveland starters are only playing 24 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you're playing against the Cleveland backups, and that's far more attainable to be productive against. So, and now let's just get to your cover boy. I was stopped in my tracks this morning, saw the playbook post. I was like, what is this?
I did cover boy Keon Johnson today.
This led to a bet for me. I took the over 22.5 PRA because of it.
I really like him tonight. And you're looking at like what happened with Brooklyn. So like first off, they bought out Ben Simmons today, right? So there's obviously good for Ben Simmons. He's going to go to play with a contender. You know, he deserves it.
I saw Houston.
There's 2 Houston, Cleveland, and the Clippers were the 3 teams that he's talking to.
Because Ben Simmons has done so much in this league that he deserves a buyout to a contender, right? You know?
I mean, the Clippers make a lot of sense. They just let go, like they traded Kevin Porter. They need I also don't know if Ben Simmons should play in LA. That would also feel. But there's a reason why it's the Clippers and not the Lakers, right?
I was going to say, if he goes to the Lakers, they just signed Jordan Goodwin, our guys back in the league.
They did, yeah. Well, also like the Clippers, LA is like RC Cola. Yeah. Right, so like the Coke, like Lakers are Coke here, and Clippers are RC Cola. No offense to Clippers fans, but anyways, Keon's looked great, and I'll flat out say I think he's looked their best player. They got Cam Johnson back last game. Nick Claxton's been obviously healthy, and D'Lo's played both the back-to-back. And you look at
drafted back in the day.
Huh? Yeah, Keon Johnson is a Clippers guy. Yep.
Yeah.
Right on talking on brand here.
Yep.
3 of the last 4 games, John, Keon Johnson has had a 27% usage rate. Twice over the last 3, he's gone 30 plus. And you look at the minutes have been super consistent. And then the 5th game there, 23, 4 fouls in the first half. Or picked up his 3rd foul really early in the second quarter, 4th foul really he doesn't come off the floor. And then you look at he's in every closing lineup. He plays nothing but big minutes, and he takes all the shots. He has a really good facilitator in D'Angelo Russell playing next to him, and he's been really good peripherally. He is probably legitimately $1,000 too cheap, and nobody's playing him. He's just one of my favorite tournament plays tonight at kind of a wasteland of position. We just said Bilal Koulibaly is our favorite play.
Yeah.
And he's $5,500. I would save $3,000 plus on Keon over Mitchell, in 150 lineups. Have Mitchell in a couple and I just play Keon and save the money and go spend elsewhere. This is one of my favorite tournament plays of the day.
I said 22.5, by the way. I lied. I got him at 20.5 for his PRA today.
Dude, he's doing that in points.
He scored that over in points in each of the last 2 games.
And I think, like, again, like, you just have to, like, Brooklyn is what they are. Like, Cam Johnson's limited. They don't extend D'Lo. Like, Claxton and Sharp split center minutes. And then they have this guy who they just play, and he closes in blowouts.
Yeah.
Like, it's just been a really nice stretch of games for Keon Johnson, not just like 5. It's been like the last 10 games where Keon Johnson has just played. I'm going here with confidence tonight. It's one of my favorite tournament plays of the day.
Yeah, I like it. All right, value at this position. Do you have any interest in Nick Smith, Quentin Grimes, Cleveland plays down here? Grady Dick at $4,300. Is there anything you'd play at value?
Yeah, I'll just save Strus because, again, or else we're not going to have any time on small forward because I don't know what to do there. I am interested in Grady Dick tonight. Like, pause. I mean, it's like it's another team that just has no one available, right? Like, they don't. RJ out, Pirtle out, traded Olynyk, traded Brown. Like, they obviously have a bunch of G Leaguers that, they just turned Jamison Battle into a full contract. They don't have Orlando Robinson anymore, which I think is a big piece because you and I had discussed, like, who they're going to use at center.
Yeah.
But just one less rotation piece. We only see Garrett Temple when it's a blowout. So I think Grady Dick is live for another 30 minutes. There's really good numbers for Grady Dick with Jakob Poeltl, RJ Barrett out, and plus the guys they traded. Over a fantasy point per minute. It's obviously a very uncomfortable spot for Toronto in general. And, I saw Sean and Don were talking about, like, playing multiple Wizards. Like, this is the same scenario. If you played Grady Dick, you'd also be playing multiple Raptors in the 2.
Yeah.
And then you have possibly, like, 4 guys in the worst spot ever, right? Like, 2 guys. If you're playing 4 players, 5 players possibly, depending on how many Wizards you get to, in just an abysmal spot. So I do think Grady Dick is solid. Just the lineup construction part is tough. We could we'll see about Jacoby Walter if he draws a start. He was really good last game. He's been good in 3 of his last 4. The other Quentin Grimes, no. And we'll talk Cleveland and Strus at
small forward.
Yeah.
Again, a position that we struggled with yesterday.
Oh, it's awful, dude. It's so bad. It's
didn't really care. Value is the highest roster player because, again, the Wizards are all like 35+%.
Yeah.
Keyshawn George is your chalk tonight. Bilal Coulibaly, as we said, we plugged him in. He's 21%, second highest guy. Scotty Barnes is 11%. Everybody else, in terms of ownership, is basically under $5,000. So they all kind of looked at this position the same we did and said no thank you to the top and just went to the value here.
It's just a position I'm using Coulibaly in. I don't really have interest in Scotty. I saw Don say it earlier. I think it was Don. He said, I want to play SGA and Barnes. If you think that game could be competitive, then you'll have a really low owned SGA Barnes stack and maybe win a tournament. But, like, you have to be really sure that game stays close.
Yeah.
Give me news here. What is this? Karis LeVert.
Okay. Won't make debut.
Okay. That honestly makes things better here. At this position specifically, it makes things better. Because we have 2 Hawks that I think you could play. Zachary Richer and Vit Krejci. I think both became much more valuable with that news.
I agree. I mean, again, shorten rotation. That's 3 guys no longer available to them, right? What do we think happens with ownership now?
I mean,
again, we kind of talked about Vit Krejci on the preview show a little bit, and you were like, "Well, we got to see." Well, now we know, right? Like,
well,
think he starts?
I don't. I still don't think he starts. But I mean, you never know. They didn't they had been starting Hunter. So I guess you could, in theory, say Krejci starts, but are you starting Vit Krejci or Ricochet against Giannis? Is that fair?
Sure.
Sure, that's fair. Sure, you're not paying attention.
I
Sure.
don't know. Do you think it's fair?
No, of course not. Putting Ricochet or Vit Krejci on Giannis, it's stupid.
I mean, you have length at least on Ricochet, and they'll have help defense on him.
I think that would be a death sentence for them. They did call up Muhammad Gay, so my assumption is they're going to do double big. Sure. I prefer Ricochet to Krejci. I get the Krejci stuff because he obviously could play a bunch of minutes off the bench, but I prefer Ricochet. I think
we're looking for the offense, right? Ricochet obviously has the offensive ceiling.
He's already popular. His ownership's gonna balloon.
Right. So we'll see. But again, that just means more people are spending down at small forward. Maybe Daniels gets a bump now.
Yeah, Daniels might get a bump.
Because Daniels is sitting at 15% right now. So again, just knowing that he's not coming off the floor, but maybe Taft's forced to take on a more offensive role. Yeah.
I think what Josh just said is the correct. I do think that is what's going to happen. I would be very shocked if they went.
Because you think the double big there. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no. They just are. They're sending their first round pick out to die. Whether it help or not, Giannis is just too physically gifted for Zachary.
I mean, he's that for almost every player. Right?
Yeah, for everyone. But you're the first overall pick in this year's draft that hasn't really been extended. Okay. I would say is in. And then I think there's some interesting players below that. Keyshawn is obviously gonna play a bunch of minutes post Kuzma trade. They don't have Middleton or anyone available. The one I wanted to talk about was Jalen Tyson for Cleveland. He was their first round pick this year. He has been getting relatively decent run. Now, obviously the Miami game was the start and he didn't do anything in, and he's not going to start here unless Cleveland rules somebody out. But, when Cleveland did send out a bunch of depth, right? They traded Georges Niang. They traded Karis LeVert. They don't have Sam Merrill, Isaac Okoro, DeAndre Hunter, or Dean Wade tonight. That is a lot of pieces missing. So their starting five is their starting five. And then you just ask yourself, what does the
Jerome, Tyson, and
Porter, and then Tristan Thompson is probably playing some backup center run. So I do think one, you get early run out of Jalen Tyson, and then two, you get the blowout run with Jalen Tyson. So I think there's definitely a case that you get low 20s minutes out of Jalen Tyson. There was reports Atlanta started here. I want Jalen Tyson. They were no. They're okay, well, what else do you have? And they were Karis LeVert. And they're well, what about
Karis
Jalen
LeVert
Tyson?
Just went 0 for 8. No. Can we have anybody else?
Karis LeVert. And they're no.
Georges Niang.
I want Tyson. They're no, Karis LeVert. They're okay. Yeah. And we can give you Niang too. Yeah. It's a good trade for both sides, I think. It does what, first round pick as well for Atlanta and stuff. But I do think that there's some merit to getting the
power forward position. Brings us to the questionable Giannis at 11-8. Obviously, more value potentially, opening up here. Could put more in on Giannis tonight if he ends up being active for this slate. Then you kind of go down again to the mid-tier range. We didn't care too much for sort of the next group of guys. I mean, Bridges is fine at 9K, but he's 9K and Ball could be back. Mobley in the blowout. Bam against Brooklyn. Bam's been fine, right? 82. Yeah. Bam's
I
been
wrote
good.
Bam up. I wrote
$8,200.
Bam up today.
But Jalen Williams blowout. Paul George third wheel. Chet Holmgren maybe limited. Like, not like a ton. Not a ton good stuff here.
I would be shocked if Chet comes like anywhere near 25 minutes in this game. I'd be shocked.
I don't disagree. They have to be the hip injury, right? Like, and he's had some injuries before. You keep him healthy, limit him up and see where you go there. So Bam would be the guy, I guess, outside of Giannis for this top group for us.
Yeah, and then like you can obviously I agree on the Bridges front. I mean, Bridges has
again, he's fine. Obviously, if ball comes back, like they play well together, but it's just another
9K with LaMelo back would be
super tough. You'd have to really believe in that game.
That would be
Again, Cam J did play 25 minutes in his return. He's going to take shots. He's fine. He's not great. If he gets up to 35, that'd be cool, right? Like if they just bumped him up real quick like they did last time, would be nice to see.
Yeah.
And then you go down into the value range. I mean, if Giannis gets ruled out, everybody plays Portis again.
Yeah, he's
easily.
highest
Jovic is here, probable. He's been really good. They flirted with like bringing Kevin Love back. I don't know if you saw those updates today. It was like Kevin Love is probable, and he's questionable again. I'm like, please just keep Kevin Love on the bench. I know
he played.
Don't extend him, right? Like just play Nikola Jovic. $5,200 against Brooklyn. The minutes are obviously really good right here. Are we trusting the Heat rotation finally, or what's going on?
I'm not. I'm over this. Denny did it to me. He broke me last night, and he officially broke me with teams. I've officially entered the teams that don't have solidified players and roles every night. To
your own detriment. You know that about you've been the one fighting me on Denny. Like you're like, no, dude, like he's the only guy on this lineup that doesn't have consistent and then he played him. And then Simon. Well, what really hurt you was that Sharp got on the floor and didn't miss a bucket for.
Didn't miss literally the whole first
half,
second half.
Well, we don't need Denny. We have Shannon Sharp out here making all these buckets. So.
But Jovic, I even wrote it in the playbook. Like, look at all these games: 37, 36, 25, 29, 47. It's like
no,
and not even 25 is bad, but like you just get those games out of these coaches, right? Like Spoelstra, Steve Kerr. Add this list. Taylor Jenkins. Like, there's a list of coaches. Chauncey. There's a list of coaches that only give a small percentage of minutes to everybody, and then just play.
And mine's not limited. Right? Isn't missing anybody. They've been missing Jimmy Butler. So like they're not down anybody. They just don't have the new guys yet, right?
No. Yeah. I am like I'm good with Jovic. Sure. I mean, I wrote him up in the playbook, but it's annoying. It's annoying.
Where else at power forward do you find yourself looking to go? The highest rostered power forward tonight. So Jonathan Moba, $3,100. Are you spending your value play here on a 36%, 37% Mobo at $3,100?
Yeah, I mean, you and I had talked about it last night. I think Jonathan Mobo is your starting center.
How do you think that works for him in this game?
I don't think it matters because he's 3,100. Now, obviously, like, yes, 2 fouls on the table. We have no idea what OKC is even going to do. I think, like, there has been no indication whatsoever whether they're going to go double big, whether one's going to come off the bench, and who is it, right? Like, they have not, like, leaked anything. They're just – Chet just said, like, hey, I'm back before the All-Star game, and everyone's like, oh, I assumed you were out until after the All-Star game. So, like, I think, like, if he starts, there's a scenario where he just is simply like he was like the first pick of the second round this year. He has flashed like pretty promising stuff. Defensively, he's a good rebounder. He can space the floor. And he'll play. He's 3,100. Like, they will close with him over a Chris Boucher. So he's about 0.9 fantasy points per minute this year. If you give Jonathan Mobo mid to high 20s minutes at 0.9.
Do you like Boucher as a pivot? He's
comfortable.
getting almost half the ownership. That's like Bashi. Boucher's getting about half the ownership.
I do think that he's definitely fine. He's a good fantasy point per minute player. So, off the injury report, I do think it's like interesting how Toronto handles their front court tonight. I have no idea how they handle their front court tonight. I personally don't think there's any idea on what they do normally. So, like, after a trade deadline, we definitely don't know. But Boucher is obviously a solid
Josh.
He definitely benefited from Wemby foul trouble, but the minutes have been solid the last 2 games.
And 4,700 though with Fox and everything, like, that's just.
Yeah, I mean, he is like, when is he gonna, like, it's Fox, Wemby, Vassell. He's good. Like, he's a good rebounder. He can play make.
Harrison Barnes has been good, right? Like, they're just like
just as good. Wouldn't you rather, like, you're talking Sohan and it's a fine pivot, but wouldn't you just play Ricochet at like 200 cheaper in that scenario?
Our guy Anthony joining the ranks of winning money here today. Congrats, Anthony, dude.
Nice try, dude. Yeah, he commented on our pre-show too. Yeah, I mean, that's $3,500
bucks. I'm glad everybody who's tuning in is winning money, man. We're about that.
Yeah, it's been a nice cash flow the last few days. Salute to the nation. Yeah. Salute to FANation.
Center position here. Again, I put Wemby as our Embiid rather as the cover of our preview show. Ownership not going necessarily to him in terms of like the most popular place. He is among the popular centers. He's 21%. You have Giannis, obviously the dual positional eligibility. We talked Mobo. But the Washington centers, Vucevic and Rashawn Holmes, are 27 and 25%. So, if everybody's spending down at like every position that we're looking at, like, where are they spending up for? Like, Trey, I guess, like,
Trey. Everyone's playing Trae Young. Everyone's just playing Trae Young. So, like, it is. We had a comment on the pre-show. I don't know exactly what it was, but the comment on the pre-show basically said, like, oh, great, another Embiid slate.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, we were gushing over Embiid. So, like, and they probably just commented that without looking, without even listening. They just saw the cover.
I mean, the majority of this year when he's been on the floor, he's been worthy of gushing over.
His whole career has been like when he's played, right? He's just really good. I will say this is a weird thing to say for a guy who's missed half of his career games. I am very comfortable playing Joel Embiid tonight. I mean, it's a very comfortable, we've seen centers have really
good performances in this matchup against Detroit and Durant here. So, like, Embiid's coming off of a triple-double in a game he played 36 minutes after missing a full month.
John, those are, I don't care how good or bad a team is. What you just said is all I care about. He missed a month. He played 36 minutes. He had a 40% usage rate in that game.
They moved him up $400.
That's all.
He's still way too cheap.
We said this for all year, right? Like, they haven't elevated his price, and I get it. Yeah. He hasn't been in the lineup a lot. But, like, any game that he's completed, he just smashes at this price. So, where I told you, I don't think we're often going to get as good defensive numbers as we have in years past, because
there's enough value on the slate where you play Cade and Embiid as a stack in this one.
I love Embiid as, like, I'm going to get to a lower owned Embiid as my spend up or one of my two.
I think this is definitely a double spend up slate. We did it last night without even knowing all the value that would be available to us.
Yeah, and I like you mentioned the Washington Center stuff. I actually have made a stand. Yeah. I'm playing Tristan Vukcevic today. That's basically been over Rashawn Holmes, and the ownership has trended that way all day. It was Rashawn Holmes was the chalkiest player of the slate for most of the day, and Vukcevic has just taken off like a rocket ship since Holmes got downgraded with the illness. And I get it that Holmes is going to start if he plays and stuff. But I almost see no scenario where Rashawn Holmes plays more minutes than Tristan Vukcevic unless there's foul trouble, because Vukcevic is one of those. He is one of those get on the floor and foul you mighty fast kind of guys. So that's not great. But he's also 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy this year. So I am taking a stand. So I'm another kind of double center scenario tonight. It's also more comfortable doing that knowing that there's only one 8 p.m. game, that it has a 19-point spread. So I don't need much from it, at least the OKC side. So Anthony, I have no interest in Chet Holmgren. I have more interest in going out, and this is probably a little dramatic, but going out and stepping in dog poop than playing Chet Holmgren.
Seems a little dramatic.
Because I can just clean my shoe after that. I can't get 28 minutes out of Chet Holmgren. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
So I can clean my shoe, but I can't get those minutes from Chet. I'll tell you that. And also, Anthony, just broad strategy. Sorry, John. I just want to, because Anthony, this is something and for anyone that does this, maybe Anthony's newer into DFS. I know he was in the stream a lot last year too. But just because a team is a big favorite doesn't mean we want to stack them in DFS. Because if we play SGA and we play Chet, and that game is what it says, it's a 19-point spread, those two players are not playing in this fourth quarter of this game. So it's very hard to want to play players in a 19-point spread that aren't going to play the fourth quarter. And Chet hasn't played basketball in 2 months with a hip injury. He's not going to play enough minutes even if it stayed competitive. So to answer that broadly, no, and as a general rule of thumb, in a 20-point spread, I would not stack many players on the team.
Would you play Portis if Giannis plays? I don't think so. I don't think that Portis benefits from being without Middleton or anything like that. He will. The price isn't terrible. He's $5,500. He can definitely pay that off just in his backup minutes. But we hit bingo with Portis whenever Giannis is out of the lineup. He gives you 10x. But this slate is also kind of tough in the mid-tier. So, if you... I don't think he's a terrible spot, but he's not again, he's doing this without Giannis. Did this 22 minutes, 19 minutes. This is kind of what he's at, right? He doesn't have a huge ceiling if Giannis is playing.
So I think there's a couple. Recently, Doc Rivers came out and said he hates his small ball lineup defense. Portis comes back, plays 32 minutes. I can see a scenario where their minutes are a little elevated from what they've been. And maybe you're getting 24, 25 minutes, 26 minutes out of Portis regularly, even if Giannis plays. It's not a priority, but I do think he does just in general have a massive ceiling because he's such a high usage guy and so active on the glass. He can give you 16 and 10 in 24 minutes, but it's not a priority. There's a lot of other plays across the board, at his price range.
Yeah, if he fits your build, that's fine. Power forward isn't a great position. But we talked about, there's value that can be had here today. So, all right. I'm going to build.
Wait, we didn't really finish center. Okongwu is someone that I would play in a tournament. 1.2 fantasy points per minute without everyone that's on the floor. I would also play Musa Diabate tonight at 4,300. And you know what? Like, that's someone that's going to fly under the radar tonight. And he's been really good per minute anytime he's been extended because he's just an elite rebounder. So even if Musa doesn't start, they announced him as the starter like when Nurkic is here. But like even if it's Taj Gibson announced as a starter, you're gonna see Musa.
Yeah, you've talked about that.
Play a lot.
He's 16%, so it's not like completely overblown. Andy, the difference with Cleveland is, to me, there is no difference. We talked about not playing the starters in Cleveland.
I don't know what
we said we'd like Jerome and Jalen Tyson. We're not. I'm not playing any of the Cleveland starters. Yeah. They may play 24 minutes. I mean,
you could play. You could like probably make a case for Strus for me because he's so cheap, and if he just makes like a bunch of shots early, like he could pay it off. But you could make a case for Jared Allen because he's cheaper.
Allen gave you 20 minutes in that last load. He gave you 30 fantasy points, but that's not enough at 64.
Right. It's a tough set. I mean, it's a very tough.
If you get this,
you
get the complete outlier. Exactly. So I mean, if Washington by chance keeps it close, but we're talking about playing Washington, Anthony. We're not talking about playing Cleveland. So
right, and exactly, it's a complete different scenario. And we're talking about playing Toronto guys, like cheap value. Young Toronto players, like not for 1 second did we say like Scotty Barnes is a priority or like, you know.
All right, let me just show you a gross lineup that I just put together for everybody. Okay, and you can watch it go down. So we got Trey. Let me make sure I actually have this correct. Trey.
When did you build it? Where did you just have a separate tab?
We had Trey. Giannis, Embiid. I got Carrington.
Oh, apparently Denny has.
Oh, what a nice to know yesterday.
So that's great. Hell yeah, brother.
Johnson, Mogbo, and you said you liked Vuk. We have 4,200. Let's see, 42. Is that Jerome? 47. Utah.
47.
Let's see. Is there anything down here?
You would probably like if you wanted to do Vukcevic, you would do like Koulibaly in that lineup over Keon, and then play Vukcevic.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Cade, Giannis, and Embiid got a triple 10K spend.
That is exactly what you classify as stars and scrubs, like 2AT stars and scrubs lineup.
Gets your Playbook cover boy, Keon. Gets you Cade, Giannis. We'll see if Giannis plays. Obviously, he's questionable. Giannis and Embiid. So you get three guys that could go for 60 plus. And then you just need, I don't know, the rest of those guys to give you 25, something in that range. Win a tournament tonight. It's such a gross slate, and all the chalk is all this value that if everybody's playing all this value, they're going to have, it's a stars and scrubs day. Quickly is still on a minutes limit. Yeah, will Shed get a blowout run? Maybe. Probably.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they traded Davion. He'll play.
I don't know Shed if you want to make a pivot there. So again, it's gross, but like I think this is what could be a trend of us. I bet we see similar builds of like maybe 2.5 spends and like a couple of mid-tier plays. But if everybody is just playing Carrington, Mobo, Vucevic, or Holmes, whatever value, like Keyshawn George value, if everybody's playing all these under 4K guys, you're gonna have so much money to do at least double spend.
Yeah, there's also the case to like play like real players too.
Half these guys might start.
I'm not saying they're not. No. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying, but like they're such low, like if you don't do like,
What?
I don't
Play
know. It's
Bam?
just
Play Bam?
no, I don't hate it. No, I
I
don't
don't
hate
think
it.
you hate it.
I'm not saying
Bam
I hate it.
Coulibaly.
I'm just
Let's see. Bam
no. You could play that
Coulibaly.
lineup.
Ricochet or Krejci, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love Krejci as much as you do.
No, someone's playing
You
for
are like
Atlanta. They
full
don't have
blown Vic
Hunter,
Krejci
right? They
fan.
don't have Jalen Johnson. But should you take that strategy, or is there a better route? DePrince, that is the $1 billion question tonight, isn't it? I mean, FanDuel might be a little bit harder. I don't know. I haven't checked out FanDuel today. I got to get my quarter entry in over there. Let's see where things are going.
FanDuel is harder because half these players are over $4,000. And I even wrote it in the playbook. Like some of these values, like the Washington stuff, is not as good of a play as it's just not the same.
Portis, 72, Daniels, do that. If Giannis was out,
yeah, we'd probably also just like shift. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could get to Trae Young too instead of just like 1-for-1, like 2v2 swapping. Because then I do think like life is easier for Trae if he wants to like go inside.
I mean, I'm not playing anybody San Antonio, Charlotte. So like really the only players that would get locked in are like Carrington, Tyson, I guess, in that lineup. So it would give you opportunities to wait on the Milwaukee news and then make pivots at 7:30 as you need there. So Bones Highland to be waived by the Hawks.
Poor guy.
So I mean, on DePrince, listen, we talk about DePrince a lot in our Discord and obviously here because he does go stars and scrubs often. We'll throw some FanDuel ideas out there. I haven't looked at FanDuel today from a lineup construction perspective.
It's gross. It's gross.
I don't recommend jamming in. All right, Josh Green out, LaMelo Ball in for Charlotte. So
it's gross, dude. It's gross.
What helps the Josh Green out? Nick Smith?
He was doubtful. Daquan Jeffries played like 30 minutes last game.
I had some tickets on FanDuel that I need to fill out, so that's good. All right, let's see. I don't play on FanDuel often, obviously. So you're saying that everybody's kind of expensive over there, yeah?
Yep. All the Washington stuff.
Drummond now questionable. I don't think we're going there anyways. FanDuel ownership, your highest guy is Mobo, and he is 39. So you get that at power forward. And then, like you said, Keyshawn George is 46.
It's not as appealing at those prices. You're going to be more balanced on FanDuel.
So you're going to be more DePrince, definitely not this on FanDuel. Do not jam in 3 top guys. It doesn't look like you can do it. You may be able to get away with 2, but then you're still playing some obviously some iffy plays there. So Dalton Connect, Yusuf Nurkic won't play. So
thankfully we're getting. I mean, we've gotten pretty much every situation. I think Milwaukee is like the only one that hasn't said Kyle Kuzma's out. So please,
if Kyle Kuzma's in, you probably can't play Portis, right?
I don't know. I would probably still feel pretty comfortable with Portis because they want to go double. They want to play the double big stuff.
All right, well, guys, just an example lineup for you. Again, it's gross. We jammed in a bunch of plays to make it work, but that's the way DraftKings Slate is built for tonight. Get Grande's playbook. Get in that Discord. Get your 7-day free trial. FANaceTime.com/big game promo that we got going on here. Promo code Big Game gets your first 6 months at 50% off. So fantasyalarm.com/big game. promo code Big Game when you check out. We'll save you 50% off the first 6 months. That's $19.98 a month. Gets you access to all of our content over at Fantasy Alarm for 50% off. All NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, MLB, NASCAR. I don't even know if I'm missing it. All the content will be 50% off for you guys there.
UFC.
Plus the Discord. Yeah,
UFC.
MMA.
Did you say
yeah,
UFC?
MMA. Big MMA pay-per-view this week.
MMA,
Tomorrow,
true.
my guy Noah's Playbook just got published, so you got that to go check out. So, again, we appreciate you all who tune in each and every day. Hit that like button for us. Leave a comment. We'll be back on Monday. Good luck till then. We'll see you later.